Good evening. John Dewey, American philosopher and educational reformer, shared that education is not an affair of telling and being told, but an active and constructive process. It has been an honor to watch Turner Watkins take an interest in modern architecture and transform it into a project that involved complex design theory, hours of consultations with architects, references to national housing and construction codes, and ultimately, a final product that solves overpopulation and the overcomplicated aesthetics of 21st century living. He has drafted and redrafted, taken all aspects of living into consideration, and learned an entire computer program to design his vision of modernity. Turner's passion for architectural design is, he tells me, going to continue into the next phase of his life. So you could be sitting in the presence of the architect of your future home. Please welcome Turner Watkins.
Good evening. Right, well, I hopefully won't encounter the same difficulties as Jacob, but I left all the audio aspects to in his, so it's in for a treat at the end. Mine will be completely silent. Just bear with me one moment. So thank you again for being here this evening. My name is Turner Watkins, and my independent study is called Building for the Masses, Practical Architecture. First things first, I am so grateful to these amazing people. Mrs. Huff has been with me since January, and has been a fantastic resource, helping me take care of any things that should come up in such a complicated endeavor. My parents have been so generous with their time. Mr. Gilmore has went with a lot of the computer-aided design development. Dr. Hamill has always been there for encouragement. Tim Turner has, like you will, borne with me through many a presentation of design and drafts. And then a couple others, Radhika Phillips was always there with some good tips, and Clint Watkins helped me with the model that you see over there, and you're welcome to come up and explore after the presentations today. So these are the topics I will be discussing this evening. Background, concepts and misconceptions, the building process, early drafts, the final product, and the end goals. Right, so a little bit of background about minimalism. I've been studying architecture independently for about 3 years, starting my sophomore year, but this is my first formal design. Looking broadly at the United States, I believe that our growing cities and their inhabitants are best served through the benefits of an emerging style of architecture called minimalism. My goal, however, was not to create only just a comfortable minimalist house, but one attainable by the average family with an income of about $60,000. While minimalist, I also wanted to ensure room enough for 4 people, 2 adults and 2 children, by inserting, as you will see, 2 bathrooms and 3 bedrooms, as well as having a large living space. I also implemented natural lighting wherever possible, and limited counter spaces to avoid the clutter that I know most of us deal with our homes nowadays. So this design that I will present is intended for urban and suburban locations connected to electric, gas, water, and sewage utilities, as well as access to public transportation. So a little bit about the concepts of minimalism. Minimalist architecture is about being conscious of space rather than the more is better ideology. While some makeover shows tend to take minimalism to extremes and promote full renovations and excessive customization, minimalism is a concept that can be applied to any existing space. Unlike modernism, which often uses a lot of metal surfaces and customization, minimalism usually sticks to more organic materials to provide the most comfort. Also, modernism focuses on emptiness, while minimalism is more personalized. For this project, the key for me was removing a lot of, as I said, the unnecessary counter space, as well as hallways, built-in closets, and keeping the space open for a variety of uses. The ideal furnishings are of standard sizes, which removes the need for the expensive customizations and maintenance. So my reading list was composed of 11 architectural books and 2 journals. I also benefited, as I mentioned earlier, from the counsel of 3 different architects and Ms. Huff. The International Residential Code was also a gigantic part of my journey. So the IRC is what most, there are a variety of versions that different locations have adopted, but I used the 2018 one, and so it was just most relevant to for this project. When so it's about legality and safety, and also learning how to apply building design through kind of seeing what's already been accepted as good building technique. And for visiting active building sites, I worked a short time at Habitat for Humanity and got to see what that sort of atmosphere was like with new home construction. Alright, so the following are just a few examples of the drafts I made, and they depict the very slow evolution at different intervals of the house. So this one's from February, late March. This was playing around with skylights and different other natural lighting features. So you can sort of begin to see the front of the house take shape. Again, some more building plans, very rough, but ultimately they aided a lot in the final design. This was, again, a very crude room concept, just learning how to place furniture relative to entries and providing access and exit from the room. This was the last paper draft from late July and early August. A lot of scribbled notes, but this is the draft that I used to construct both the architectural model over here, as well as the digital design that I will present in a moment. So here's the floor plan. You can see a lot of the dimensions are laid out, and kind of gives an overview of the house. These are a sample of the furnishings that I put in, just to get an idea of how the space could potentially be used. And again, with such a largely empty space, there are so many variations that could be made. So the next step for me would be branching into larger forms of housing. So the same design I found could likely be either stacked or configured in another way to make some sort of condominium, apartment complex, or even a townhouse. So did I meet my goals? I did find that the cost was about $110,000 to create the building. There was room for 4 people, and it did have what I do believe is a minimalist design. And so the next part will be the walkthrough, and just load that up very quickly. So this animation will give a short sort of view through the house as one might see it. So you can see kind of a little bit through each room, and none of them are extremely big, but they do provide enough room for things as simple as door openings, or just maneuverability. Oh, sorry about that. Also, in this room, you can see sort of the handlebars for some bikes. That is sort of promoting, a little cleaner transportation, and also in lieu of a garage, just a simple bike rack would make do for any or most suburban or urban environments. So that I believe concludes the house design. Thank you for your attention, and enjoy the rest of the presentations.